Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be breaking down this past weekend, December 14th and 15th, in Disney Lorcana. The metagame saw some big tournaments happen, mainly the one at the Charlie Collectible Show for a 10K, and there were some really interesting deck lists coming out of that, but also we had a 72-player event at Red Saber Games, 5 cases I guess, pretty interesting. Also, quick shout out to doing a win an air fryer, providing some alternative prizes. I like that, healthier options than, making something deep fried or something, I guess. But let's go ahead and take a look at what you're probably interested in. And no surprise, Brendan DeCanio ended up taking this one with his Dwarf Mine deck. So this is what he ran in the online Pixelborn tournament. We also had Kendall. We had Ruby Sapphire surprisingly falling in the finals to Amber Steel. But obviously this is not Amber Steel's song. This is an aggro-oriented I don't want to say focused on the Dwarf's Mine, but it is a pretty important piece to the deck. And it's honestly, I would consider it weak to something like Ruby Sapphire personally, because you're going to put 2 damage on what? Like small Sisu or Tipo, right? And the rest of the cards here survive. But obviously there are ways around what you'd want to do with the mine there. So we'll take a look at these lists. There are some interesting things to take a look at. So let's just get straight into it. The first one is an update basically to what DeCanio played at the Pixelborn tournament, the LCCC. I believe this is a little different than what he played. I could be wrong. I don't remember his exact list, but he's on 4 Calhouns now. I don't think he was on 4 before. Maybe he was on more Plutos. But this is an interesting list. I've talked about Pluto before, and while it is a very good card, I think it did get a little overhyped. It is undoubtedly extremely strong, but I think it's much stronger when you're the offensive player, and then you slap this down as a defensive way to guard the rest of your offensive board, rather than if you're on the defensive, this card really doesn't do too much for you because your opponent is the aggressor. You put down a defensive card, and they're just like, sure, I'll just continue to quest through it, like, it's fine. So understandably, playing 2 makes sense to me. In a list like this, because you're very aggro oriented and you do want to protect your board when you become the aggressor or are the aggressor, and that might not always be the case. He's not on a Mufasa build. He's still playing Storm and Strength and 7 Dwarves Mine and a lot of low to the ground characters, so Mufasa in a build like this doesn't really make too much sense. But there are Mufasa lists. There is a Steel Fasa list that I think came 4th that is running songs. And this goes back to what I said before, guys, as well. If you've been watching my videos, and I said, even in Amber Ruby Mufasa, I said, I don't think 60 characters is the way to go with that deck anymore. I think you have to play like good power spells, things like Be Prepared in that deck, which sounds crazy, right? But I think it's that important, and you'll see the Steel Fasa deck did play a number of songs and still had success. But in Brandon DeCanio's list, we are still on the Cinderellas for those songs, for Daisy Duck, which... I don't know, man. I don't know how DeCanio makes that work, but without a whole new world to wheel away the advantage you give your opponent, you're just trying to race them. So we've got 8 1-drops here and only 3 happy, which, again, so interesting to me. I would definitely be on 4, but I'm, respect DeCanio's decisions here. Obviously, he won the whole event, so interesting ratio, but I'm surprised he was able to make 3 happy and 4 dock work there, because when you look at his uninkable count, he's only on 16, so not too much. But we know how bad it can feel sometimes when you've got those multiple docks. I guess he makes good use out of them because Happy being a 2-1 body is technically easily removable, right? So are you able to keep him alive long enough to actually move him to the mine and get the 2 damage off? Whereas Doc as a 1-3 might have a little bit more resiliency, right? They both die to things like Brawl anyways, but the Doc has that extra willpower, which even if you play him as a vanilla, utilizing him on the mine might still be a viable play because, your opponent can't Storm Rage or anything, the Doc, whereas they can do that to the Happy. The 4 Calhoun is also a very interesting choice. I'm wondering if he was teching against the Amethyst decks, because I do think Calhoun really does wall up the tempo decks quite heavily. I talked about this in my Amethyst Steel video, right? It's talking about how powerful Calhoun is. And yeah, this card is great. 4 seems like a lot. And again, you saw him take down Ruby Sapphire in the finals. So it is interesting to see that he was able to make this work. I know sometimes the 20 Lore Pro channel will stream the CCS on their YouTube channel. So if you haven't, if you're not aware of them, make sure you check them out. They've been around since the day 1 of Lorcana. Great channel. And they often stream very high level games, like actual tournaments. So if they have footage of Brandon DeCanio facing that Ruby Sapphire, that's something I personally would want to check out, just to see how DeCanio would put on a masterclass against that deck with this. You know, you look at this deck and you're like, yeah, the Dwarf Mine doesn't really do too much against it. The Calhoun doesn't do too much against it. How does he actually deal with the Ruby Sapphire? Is he able to win the game fast enough that, you know, they just, the Ruby Sapphire decks don't get online? The 4 docks, the 4 Lilos. Again, I do think 4 Lilo is probably a little too much, but this card, and I talked about this with my friend, and I don't know if I've really said it too much on this channel, but I do think that this card is like very, very good. It's probably one of the best Amber cards that we have. I don't know if I'd call it the second best behind Rapunzel, but I might. It's that good. Again, this might get power crept, and I hope it does, because I do think recursion in this game is something that is like a really cool mechanic to add in. And if we get more cards like that, and Amber is the color to do that, that would be great. But right now, this is the only self-recurring resource, I believe, in the game. And for that reason, it is extremely strong. You know, we do have cards that can shuffle things back from graveyards or from discard piles, but those won't see play just because of a Lilo, at least not yet. So this card is basically free resource every time it's in your discard. You have more than one, you can bring back 2. Yes, it's not, you know, insanely broken because it comes in exerted, so it can be challenged right away. Proc abilities that gain benefits on challenging, right? Gain lore on challenge, like Robin Hood. Gain an action back on challenge, like Maui Shark, etc. But it's still a very good card to maintain pressure, especially in a deck that can run out of gas very quickly. Force Me, 3 Piglet, pretty standard stuff here. 4 Lawrence, 4 Pete's. Again, I've talked about Pete many times. This is actually, you know, talking about how he beat Ruby Sapphire, this might be one of the ways that he was able to lock up Ruby Sapphire. You know, back-to-back Pete's or something like that, before they can get on a Sisu or something, like locks up the Be Prepared, locks up any other actions that prevent them from ramping, prevent them from digging with visions of the future. Very, very strong. Disruption. The Pete is really, really good. The 2 Pluto we talked about, the 4 Rapunzel, pretty standard, and then the 4 Kita turn skip, as I've called it many times. Again, if you watch my videos. Yeah, Kita, guys, I think this card is really undervalued right now, too. I think it's going for like $5 or less right now in terms of its legendary. If you don't have your Kitas, I would pick them up now. I think this card for aggro decks and aggro strategies moving forward is like an auto include. So yeah, if you don't have your, I've picked up 4 foils and I have 4 non-foils. Like that's how much, you know, in case I do want to play anything Amber, you know, Kita is the way for sure. And then you do have some options to deal with the opposing aggro decks. Let the Storm Rage On, Strength of a Raging Fire can also help you deal with big characters because you do go wide with this deck. And even if you can't finish them off with these spells, maybe, you know, if you sing Strength or Storm, because you can sing it very efficiently with Cinderella, you can use the rest of your ink to actually move stuff to the Dwarf Mine, deal 1 damage, or if you move a Knight character, deal 2. Right? The Dwarf Mine also gains you passive lore, which is really good. The 2 cost does hurt to move, but again, when you're running low on cards, utilizing your ink to move stuff to locations is very, very strong. What I did over at the end of November is I actually I finished off my playset of foil Dwarf Mines, which I only needed 1 more, and I got it for $2, and I think the card is like 7 or 8. It's going to go up more after this for sure. And I also picked up 8 non-foil copies, as well as 8 non-foil copies of Happies, all for like 25 cents each. Because I do think that this mine package is pretty solid, and what I keep talking about in my videos, guys, like this is not limited to dwarves, right? There are a number of other knights in the game, right? Like there's not many right now. Like the only one that really comes to mind is like the Steel Cinderellas. But as we get more knights in the game, this card could potentially become a better and better package to include in a steel deck, right? I've already talked about potentially including something like this in Amethyst Steel. I don't think we're there yet. I think there's still better cards in this package in Amethyst Steel, but in Amber Steel it works, as Brandon DeCanio has proven here. Also in Sapphire Steel, this could maybe something. This might be something that you could look at as well. So Steel's having like this small engine within its core is very interesting, and it is a very effective engine, right? Especially in formats like this where we're very tempo oriented. Going to the Ruby Sapphire list, okay, pretty standard. 4 big Sisu, only 1 Be Prepared. So the Pete's do not end up locking up this deck as hard as we thought. You know, you're getting your sails off before the peak comes down anyways. 2 hideaways was actually as good into DeCanio's mine deck. So yeah, very surprising that this player took the L. You know, you got the 2 sharks, which again counters the Lilo quite nicely. Your visions, 4 ice block, which means your Sisu is going to pop off, your small Sisu as well. And gives your brawls a lot more utility. 3, I mean, I don't like the 3 how far I'll go. I know a lot of lists are on these. I would go for 2 and then definitely go for 4 brawl. 1 let it go, I like that. A lot of people are teching in 1 stone dragon. 2 shield of virtue. We saw I think the build at the European Championship do this as well. The shield of virtue tech, which is interesting. But yeah, this is a pretty solid list. I don't really see too much I don't like here. Again, the how far I'll go is pretty standard at 3, but I would personally cut it to 2. And I guess maybe the only other change I would make is like -1 big Sisu, and I would like to run 3 Be Prepareds. Only 16 on Inkables, but still a very solid list overall. Yeah, hard to see that this deck lost to an Amber Steel deck. That's crazy, right? Brendan DeCanio must have played out of his mind, must have been on the play, must have had just decent hands overall, maybe. 3rd place was Amber Steel Mufasa. And yeah, just like I talked about, guys, look at this. 11 songs. So not a straight 60 characters. I think the days of 60 character Mufasa, I don't want to say are gone. The deck is still okay. But I do think like you just put in the best, I guess you could say, non-characters, like spells, items, whatever, actions, songs, items, whatever, even locations into the deck. Because you just need that non-character form of interaction. And you look at a deck like this, right? It is not too low to the ground. You have the Cindy's for the singing still. Only 2 Colhoons and 2 Docks. So you're still mainly relying on Rapunzel, which is fair. I mean, if you Mufasa into a Dock and you have nothing in your hand, you just draw 2 during your opponent's turn and then draw a 3rd card for your turn. That's pretty good. Smee. So yeah, you have a lot of like higher willpower characters that when they come in off Mufasa will likely be able to survive, especially if you hit something like a Chenpo. That's pretty good. I do like Chenpo and I do like Pluto. I think these are probably the best bodyguards we have in the game now. Hitting the Gontu, though, off of a Mufasa is probably not great since it's only 3 willpower, but if your opponent can't run over this, then it is great. And then, of course, hitting Cinderella is just the best thing, right? So, an interesting list overall. Yeah, I haven't really tested any Steel Fossa, really, but, you know, it's basically just Amber Steel aggro at this point, right? You're just playing decent cards, and we know Steel has no shortage of good cards. Literally, all of these Steel cards are good, right? Colhoun, Doc, Mr. Smee, the best 2-drop in the game, Lawrence, Pete, Pluto, Chenpo. Yeah, they're like, all these Steel cards are just, you're basically just the best Steel cards combined with good Amber cards. Like, I don't think Daisy Duck is really that great, but obviously, you know, it's been doing work in the meta lately. I don't like Doc anymore. I was a fan of this card, but I just think it's in a weaker spot now. But obviously in this build, because you do play a number of very significant on-curve 5-drops, you would not mind skipping turn 4. You don't need to play a Pluto. You don't need to proc a Rapunzel. Go straight to turn 5 when you quest with this Doc. Drop a Chenpo, protect the Doc so that it can't get challenged into after exerting itself from being played on turn 3. That's actually pretty good. Now I take back what I said. Maybe this if you can get this line of play, it does seem decent. But, you know, Doc still gets brawled. It still gets, you know, Ice Block Sea-Suit. So I just think that the 2-3 for 3 is very susceptible to a lot of things, especially when you're depending on it to quest to get its ability off. It's not like it's an instant payoff like Genie where it comes in and gets a card right away. Yeah, Gontu and Mufasa, obviously great cards to play on curve as well on turn 4 if you quest with the Doc. So yeah, a very interesting list. I actually like this list. I like these lists that seem very straightforward and relatively easy to play. I'm a fan of this. I actually like this. So props to this player, Ruben. Yeah, props to this guy, man. Is this Ruben? Is this a guy that won a DLC or came second in a DLC or something? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below if you've made it this far. But notably, in the top 3, no Amethyst. However, of course, you know, if Kendall shows up, he's probably at least getting top 4, if not winning the whole tournament. But yeah, so Kendall spoiled the party in being the Amethyst player to make top 4. We almost had an Amethyst list top 4. But very interesting Ruby Amethyst list. I think he's probably experimenting at this point. I'm not sure if he's qualified for the North American Continentals. I assume he is. If not, he'll probably just win an LCQ anyways. But I've seen this guy play a number of different times, and like, when I watch him play, and I'm like, oh, I would make this play, and then I see him make a better play, and that's happened like a number of times. And I'm just like, yeah, this guy just like never misplays, I guess. So that's why I have so much confidence in, like, you know, being a Ruby Amethyst player myself, and understanding some of these lines, and then seeing what he does. I'm just like, oh, like, yeah, he's definitely very good. So that's why, if you're wondering, you know, if I'm talking him up a little bit, I just respect his play a lot from what I've seen. Anyways, a pretty decent list, opting for the 3-3 split. Again, I've talked about this. I would prefer the 4 Genie myself. I would prefer 2 Bells. The 3 Maui I like. I don't like going to 2 Maui. I like the 4 Elsa. I actually prefer the 1 Tremaine over 2 Tremaines myself, and the 2 Mana Medusa, the 1 Sisu. There's also an option to go 0 Tremaine and put in 1 of Shark or 2 Sisu. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Haven't tested it too much, but this any kind of ratio like this, 1, 2 Medusa, and then 1 Sisu, I think that's fine. You can play around with 1 to 2 Tremaines, 1 to 2 Sisus, depending on which one you want to play and which one you don't, or split them, or go with a fancy tech option like Maui Shark. 4 Brawl, 4 Friends, 4 Be Prepared with the 1 Sisu. I like that. Be Prepared is just such a high impact card. Like, how many times have you, I've said it many times, how many times have you been in a game and you're just like, oh, now I need to rip the Be Prepared in order to, like, stabilize or come back into the game. And it's like, if you only run 2 or 3, it's like you're significantly decreasing your odds. I'm not sure if I like the 1 of Dragonfire, especially without Maui Shark. It is an interesting tech option, though. I can understand it because, you know, you think about the value of Medusa or Tremaine. You have enough tempo orientation in turns 1 to 5 that you can afford to say, I don't need to play a character. I can just play the straight removal spell. And so I like that. It's just being a 5-cost uninkable. I remember what it was like playing Dragonfire in Sat 1. It's not great to have in your hand early on. Like, you're just like staring down a dead card and you're just like, I'm probably, like, I mean, again, you have to be a good player and know, like, I'm not going to just play this at my earliest opportunity just to get it out of my hand. You need to save it for when it's needed. That being said, when you do draw this, when it is impactful, it can be a game changer. So it's interesting, but again, I think it's a little clunky. And then the 1 random Maui's Fishhook, which again is a mystery to me because you only play 3 Maui Hero to all. You do not play Shark. It is a good option still if you even have to just exert and pay 2 in order to give something like Sisu here, Evasive, throw it into the opposing Genie because they likely have 3 or more cards in hand, so the strength will be at 4. Mim Fox, if it's already on field, challenge, survive, of course Maui, and then proccing the ability for free. It's great. And, you know, you can just see there's a number of cards here that you can give the Evasive to, right? That will allow you to take out opposing Genies. Or even just giving the strength to run over anything else, right? But I think you're really playing this for the Evasive, right? So it makes Goat run over Genie, Belle run over Genie. It can give Elsa the extra strength boost, but again, you're probably playing Elsa and then you may not have 2 ink left over. Maui for free, Sisu, Madam Mim Fox, that kind of stuff. So yeah, interesting list overall. I think that it's still a great list, obviously, and piloted by a very good player. Amethyst Steel, so the deck I just did a profile on. Let's see how this one is built. We've got the, I guess what's being called the standard 16 1-drops. I opted to cut the Maleficent from my list unless you wanted to really go hyper aggro, which you can. It's a very good card to include in your lists. I actually recently picked up my 4th foil one of the Maleficent. I do think that this is a card that, I don't want to say becomes a staple in Amethyst Steel, but is definitely a very strong option to continue to play. Only 2 Calhoun, 3 docks. I like that. Again, I've talked about in this list, or in this ink pairing, I don't like the 4 docks necessarily. For Mr. Smee, 4 Fox, of course, 2 Crab, which is fine. 2 Pete's, okay. 4 White Rose. I think that's a little much, but again, it's a 3 for 3/3 that gains you lore. Can't really go that wrong with it. No Merlin Rabbit, so you can kind of see a lot of these Amethyst Steel players foregoing the Rabbit. I think I also did in my list, and I gave justification as to why. I've tested it with Rabbit, and it does seem clunky. So I probably already posted my list, right, with that. I didn't post a Rabbit list, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, 4 Goats, 1 random Yzma. Not sure how I feel about that. I definitely think you want to play 4 Elsa, but you know, if you can get away with 2, sure. 3 Gontu, 2 Befuddle. Befuddle, I don't know how I feel about this. I did use it, but maybe I just didn't use it well enough. I know like you befuddle your own cards, protect them, right? Befuddling your dock to replay is really good as well. But sometimes this card just seems like really bad, and you just don't want to use it. Which, I mean, at that point, you know, it is ink, to be fair. But without aggressive ways to refill your hand, the thing about Amethyst Steel is that you have the ability to just play good cards. And this card seems to me a mediocre card sometimes, and other times it can be a very good card. But, you know, I guess you could say the same about Fire the Cannons, right? But more or less, and aside from like maybe the Calhoun, all of these cards should have a very specific functioning purpose. Either just like a high value card giving you high impact, like Quest for 2, replace itself, draw cards and be aggressive, gain lore, like, you know, all high impact cards. And the Queen's Castle is the same, right? The Queen's Castle is like, sometimes it can just be a game breaker, the game winning card for you. Other times it is just a card that you draw and you're like, if I play this, it gets instantly outed and it does nothing, because you just don't have control of the game, right? And so Amethyst Steel is definitely one of those ink pairings. If you play the Steel removal and the Elsas, that you can make all your cards high impact. So this list, to me, you know, I think it's very unique, and I think that's cool, and I'm glad that this player was able to do very well with it. But just personally, I think there are maybe just some things that might, me personally, would question when building my list. I would be curious to see in this player's top, well, you know, in their top 8, what do they think was the reason that what they lost to, really. We've got a traditional Steel Song in the top 8 as well. 3 Naveen's on the Queen package still. Okay, that Shift 2 Sing Whole New World, still very devastating. 1 Bare Necessities, which I think is okay as a tech option. You know, I look at this card as basically duress. So just getting a peek at your opponent's hand, especially after you've sung Whole New World, can be very, very impactful, right? Ripping out that 1 card that allows them to get back into the game from that fresh 7. Very good. On the One of Cinderella as well. But other than that, we've seen Steel Song many times before. Nothing really too unique. I guess we'll take a look at just one of these or 2 of these Emerald Amethyst lists and then probably just move on. Yeah, as expected, these lists are going to be pretty much I guess we're calling them like Artabax's list, because I think is the first person that posted what this deck was going to look like in set 6. The notable difference here, no Clarabelle, added in Crickeys. So yeah, pretty interesting. Only 2 rabbits and 4 genies though. I do think, again, 3 rabbits is, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're not playing the magic brooms, so your draw is much more limited, but you are playing friends, and Artabax wasn't playing friends. So I guess, yeah, this is very interesting, right? Because the reason you don't play, like, the reason that the Emerald Amethyst list is 60 cards, like 60 characters, is because you do not want to lose any kind of tempo, and singing songs is a loss of tempo for the sake of advantage. No Snake in this list either, right? We've seen these lists go back to Snake, cutting Bonsai, some of them, but, you know, still a very good list no matter how you position it. Yeah, draw cards, turn sideways. Exactly. That's what that is. Yeah, that is the name of the game for this deck. Turn them sideways and draw some cards. So yeah, the brooms, 2 Bonsai, 3 Snakes, 3 Ursula Deceiver. Okay, I actually like this list. The 4 and the 3. This guy. Aside from the friends, which I think is okay in a list like this, but even so, like, you're losing tempo. Maybe I would cut this. I think, like, just play Clarabelle, right? I don't know. Like, when are you ever really going to want to sing Friends? I just rather push the advantage, push the aggression. Yeah, I don't like Friends in this list, I don't think. But I do like the rest of this. I don't think the 3 ofs and 2 ofs are that impactful, because you're playing the right ratios of the cards that matter. You're playing the 4 Chernobox, the 4 Merfolk, the 4 Diablo. You're playing the 4 Kit, the 4 Snake. You're playing the 4 Goat, the 4 Genie. You're playing the 4 Elsa. Those to me are the 4 ofs. The White Rose, 2 to 3, Crab 3 to 4, Ursula 3 to 4, Snake 3 to 4, Bonsai 0 to I would even say 3. I wouldn't even go 4 unless you really want to go hyper aggressive. Tamago, same thing. I'd go 2 to 3, probably 3. 4 I think is a little excessive. The broom, 2 to 4. Like the bell, I'd really only go 2 personally. So yeah, like this list I'm a fan of, except for maybe just the friends. But yeah, I like the name too, obviously. So that was at the CCS. Congratulations to all those players. Very interesting choices on decks. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Before we wrap up, let's go ahead and quickly take a look. Oh man, I thought Blue Steel won for a second, but it's only top 4. Let's see the list though. Chenpo, Gontu, Ariel, 2 Arthur, 4 Tinkerbell, 1 Simba, 2 Robin Hood from the first chapter. Okay, very interesting. Only 2 Beast Tragic Heroes. Like, what? No Imperial Bow. Not that you would need it. 4 Fire the Cannons, 3 Zeus. Okay, only 10 items. Ooh, this list seems a little disjointed to me. I don't know, man. Every time I play Hiram, I'm just like... The thing with Hiram is like you never want to have him on board without an item, right? Like if your Hiram survives, you want to have an item. Having a Hiram without an item really sucks. But I guess, you know, you do play How Far I'll Go and Along Came Zeus, which can use the Hiram as a singer. So I guess instead of items, you can look at it that way. Like either I proc items to draw, or, you know, I gain advantage off of How Far I'll Go, or I out a threat with the Zeus, right? So I guess you can look at these 5 spells as items for Hiram as well. 2 Hideaway, 4 Azure Sea, 4 McDuck Manor, which is also a considerable difference in Blue Steel. I do think that this is decent. McDuck Manor definitely making a comeback. And I recently posted a list that I did not make a video about yet, but it's one of my more popular deck lists without a video on it, called Blue Steel Turbo, because I do like Blue Steel as a list. And when I was putting together my list, I always found myself just always wanting to just get an aerial on board as quickly as I could. Because this thing has ward and it dodges Big Sisu, Medusa, you know, all those things. I'm like, yeah, if I just get an aerial on board, like the opponent can't do anything, right, to it, more or less. Like, yes, they can be prepared and do some other, like Tremaine and whatever. But for the most part, aerial is very hard to out. And if I just get the aerial on board and then get a lucky dime, like that's 10 lore. And that's like a two-turn clock, basically, right? Like, yeah, you have to be able to play the cards, obviously, and proc their abilities and or quest with them. But because you play Tipo and Sail, you are able to ramp that 1 turn early, which means if you're on the play or draw, you can get the aerial out a turn early, or sometimes 2 turns early if you're on the play, right, technically against your opponent. And that puts you in such an advantageous position to proc a dime later on and end the game very, very quickly. So basically the way that I look at Blue Steel sometimes is I'm just playing a mitigation game. I'm dealing with your board, preventing you from going for game. And I'm just playing Aerial Turbo. I'm just playing to get the aerial out. I mean, in this case, yes, you can get Aerial, you can get the Arthur, or you can get the Tamatoa. But I mean, Tamatoa in a list with only 10 items, I mean, you're still procking it probably for 3. And then, you know, getting another 3 off of the dime or 4 off of the dime. So, like, you don't need, like, you know, 7, 8, 9 items on the board. You just need, like, 2 to really get good value out of the Tamatoa. But, yeah, the 1 of Hades, the 2 of Arthur. Like, this is interesting. What are you really going to use with the Arthur? Robin Hood or obviously Tinkerbell and Simba would be the best options. Yeah, get Arthur procking the Tinkerbell is obviously, like, or the Simba is obviously super, super strong. Give it the resist, challenge or readied character. That's huge, right? Because you curve out from 6 to 7 on this line here, it's pretty good. How many uninkables? 16 uninkables. That's a little high. Because the worst feeling is also bricking on something like an Ariel or Arthur or Hades in your opening hand, and it's just being a dead card. Like, you have to ink it with the Tipo, basically, at that point. So, yeah, a lot of... and Dime. So, like, a lot of your uninkables are high-cost cards, right? Which hurt you. Like, the Zeus hurts. The Dimes definitely hurt. Like, yeah, all your uninkables are high-cost. Whew. Except for the Fire the Cannons, but... Very interesting list, though. I do like it. I do respect it. Very interesting that they ended up beating, or I shouldn't say beating. I keep looking at it like first second, but yeah, this is top 4 as well. Only 2 Diablo, but okay, 10 1 drops in total instead of 8. I actually respect that. Again with this 3 and 4, so only 7 2-drops. Okay, 4, yep, this ratio, only 1 bell. I'm really surprised. I do think 2 is the way. And I do not like the 2 Maui, but you know, I see a lot of players on it. No Medusa, just going straight Tremaine and Sisu, which I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, Tremaine, to me, is a better statted card than Medusa, but Medusa is probably higher impact in terms of taking out 3 strength or less. But Tremaine coming in, being a 2 quester with a relatively good body, like 3-4, is just like more significant. And then yeah, the 2 Sisu. So I was talking about in when I was reviewing Kendall's list, the fact that you could run something like 1 Tremaine, 2 Medusa, 1 Sisu, or like 2 Sisu, and 2 Medusa. Never really thought of going more on the Tremaine and cutting the Medusa entirely. I do think Medusa is pretty integral in Ruby Amethyst. Called bad cards. I mean, nah, I think they're all pretty good cards. Interesting to see Library being played here as well. I mean, the Library combination with these 1-drops is just so strong for card advantage. Like the reason Ruby Amethyst is good right now is because Emerald Steel kind of took a huge hit. That's the reason. If you guys were like, how did Ruby Amethyst come out of nowhere and become such a good deck? It was always a good deck. It was just Emerald Steel really kept it in check. And technically, Tempo decks kept it in check too. And the Genie gave it a lot of firepower against Tempo decks as well. All right, here we go. A Ruby Sapphire list that's running Basil and the Rhea. I like it. Decent ratios. 4, how far I'll go. I think that's probably too many. How many uninkables? 15 overall. Okay. 2 Be Prepared. 3 Sisu. And 3 Maui. 3 Maui Shark. I like it. I think it's a good list. I mean, it's a little inconsistent, right? 2 of, etc. Like, what is this 2-1 body meant to do, really? Like, one of the nice things is you can, like, quest with this, give support to, like, Tipo or Sisu or Grandma, make them bigger bodies. And if you have a Rhea on field, you can ready it up to protect it again. Okay. I like it, though. I think it's decent. It's definitely not something we've really seen before, so I can respect that. And yeah, I think we've covered pretty much all the meta lists, right? These are all the lists that are doing very well in the metagame right now. We got a 35 tournament in Spain, but we don't have any results, just a Steel Song in the top 8. But yeah, that's going to do it for this weekend's meta report from what was more significant. Let me know what you think if you made it this far in the video. Thank you for watching. Quantum is out.